The questions from here on out can be directed toward head coach Billy Donovan or any of the student athletes from Florida. And the first question is on the aisle to Bonnie.
Hey, Billy. Bonnie Bernstein, Campus Insiders. I actually have a two-parter. One, a specific matchup. Obviously, so much of the focus is on Shabazz Napier. And everybody said that Frank Kaminsky of Wisconsin is quite possibly the most difficult matchup because he's got an inside-outside game. Well, so does DeAndre Daniels. And I was wondering what you feel is the necessary approach to contain him will be.
Well, I think one of the things that ends up happening with DeAndre is Kevin does a very, very good job putting the ball a lot of times in Napier's hands. And when the floor rotates and it moves and you have to try to provide help, a lot of times when the ball gets thrown to Daniels, he's in a lot of very, very vulnerable situations from a defensive standpoint because you have to run to him. He can shoot threes. He can put it on the floor and get in the lane. If you switch him a lot, he has the ability to go into the low post and post up smaller guards. So it's not so much, I think a lot of times they can give the ball to Shabazz and he can play up top and just make plays. DeAndre, I think, gets it a lot more off their actions because you're forced to leave and help. And when the ball gets back in his hands, now you're in a very vulnerable situation. And that will be something that I think will be a challenge for us tomorrow.
Let's go toward the front row on the right.
Lance Ranker, Yahoo Sports Radio. Billy, what's the confidence level of yourself and the team heading into this matchup, knowing how close you guys played UConn earlier in the season and you were quite shorthanded?
Yeah, I think the confidence level of our team has been what it's been really the entire year. These guys understand what goes into playing and competing. They're really good as it relates to scouting report and preparation. I think they understand how hard they have to play, how well they have to play defensively together, offensively together. So I think the things that go into that, you got to believe you can do. And our guys, I think, have great belief and confidence in one another, that the things that we can control inside the process of each possession, I think that they believe in one another and getting the job done each possession collectively as a group.
On the left side of the aisle.
Kirk Wessler, Peoria Journal-Star. Billy, a little bit ago you were talking about being a question asker. Our job is asking questions, obviously. I'm curious, if you were us, what's the question you've never been asked that you would like to have somebody ask you?
Wow. Good question. You're probably a good question asker. Oh, I really don't know. I don't know. I've been asked a lot of different questions, so there really hasn't been too much I haven't had a chance to talk about, so I don't know what that would be. But you definitely stumped me for a non-answer.
Next question's on the right side.
Hey, Billy. Ryan Bass, Bright House Sports Network in Tampa and Orlando. You've got about 6 to 7 guys on your roster that played high school basketball in that Central Florida area. Why do you recruit that area so hard, and how much of an impact does that Orlando greater area have on your basketball program?
Well, it's been a very, very fruitful area for us. It's a good area. We've had some players, Chandler, Nick Calathis, Scotty being from Gainesville. It's been a very, very good area. So it's not like we're just targeting that. We've always tried to do a good job in the state of Florida recruiting, and Patrick being from Jacksonville is not far away, and Casey Hill, same thing, not far away. Chris Walker, a little bit more up in the Panhandle, but I think there's been good players in our state spread out the state. There's been some very good players in South Florida as well as Central Florida.
On the left side.
This is for Billy and Patrick. Brady Ackerman, CSS. So much talk about defending Napier. How important is it to focus on the other guys just as much as it is Napier?
Patrick, can you take that first?
Well, I think in this situation that we are right now, we're going against a really hot team, offensively and defensively. It's going to take a team focus, making sure we're all doing our jobs, helping the helper. That's one of the key concepts and principles. But we know when the ball goes in Napier's hand, he's their go-to guy, their playmaker, especially in the clock. But if we can limit him, or even if he does what he does, if we can limit the other guys from doing what they do, I think we put ourselves in a good position to win the game.
Coach.
Like Patrick said, the one thing that's Napier is a terrific player because he doesn't do it only scoring. He also creates opportunities for the other guys too, and the other guys are very, very good players. So when you're running to Daniels, or you're running to Boatwright, or you're having to rotate inside on Brima, there's those guys are issues when you're having to do those things, and it generally stems from Boatwright and from Napier, what they're doing up top.
On the left side, Roger.
Roger Rubin from the New York Daily News. This is a question on one topic for Billy and for Patrick. It's about the days when things look like they might come unraveled between Scotty and the program. Scotty was asked about it, and he said, things are a little bit overblown, but it's only because it's such a great story. So, Billy, really, how close to the end was it? And for Patrick, for the other players, while this was going on, what were you guys feeling while this was potentially unraveling? Billy?
I do agree with Scotty. You know, days that pass by, the story grows to be greater and greater. You know, Scotty and I think the first thing to start with is I've known him since he's probably, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years old. Played with my son, came to our camps, know his family very well. So there's been a long relationship with Scotty. Now, I presented him the opportunity to leave if he wanted to start over and fresh. And he didn't want to. But I felt like he needed to restore his credibility back inside the team, and he, to his credit, did a phenomenal job with that. But it wasn't one of those things where it was a 2-week suspension, he just came back to our team. There was things he needed to do. So he was from our team, you know, it was a long suspension from him away from our team. But he showed, improved, and did everything that he needed to do, I think, to regain the trust of the coaching staff and the players on side the team. And he deserves all the credit because he's the one that did it. There was never a point where I think Patrick or any of the players ever came to me and said, we don't want him on our team anymore, get rid of him, he's no good. They've always loved Scotty, but I think they wanted to see him kind of be more committed to the group, in which he made, I think, a strong commitment to doing those things.
Patrick.
Well, I think from the initial news and shock, we all had a level of disappointment and just, you know, didn't know what was going to happen next. But when Scotty said that he wanted to stick through it and stay with us, I mean, we couldn't imagine him going anywhere else or what the next year would be like if Scotty would have left. We just knew that he was going to prove to each and every one of us coaching staff that through the whole process, whatever coach asked him to do, that he was going to stick with it, and that once we've seen how committed he was to this team again, to be where he wanted to be, that we all just embraced him and wanted him to come back to us and just know that, you know, we forgive him, accept him, let's move forward and get the job done.
On the left side, Pat.
Pat Forty from Yahoo Sports. For Billy, I want to ask you about your personal workout regimen with Preston, how intense the sessions are, and what you get out of it beyond physical fitness.
Well, I trust him to handle that. These guys always make fun of me a little bit. They always tell me I don't work hard enough, right? You know, I'll try to. I feel better, Pat, really, when I do it. I try to work out with him 3 days a week in terms of lifting, and then I'll do another 3 days a week of cardio. I feel better. I think I'm a better coach, better person. I'm better all the way around. Feel better about myself, you know, just health-wise. The biggest thing for me, which I really do like, is I like the competitiveness part of it. You know, even when we do conditioning, there's always some kind of goal or something we got to do, or it's lifting, there's always some kind of goal. And he always tells me when I walk down, you're not going to be able to complete the workout. It's way too hard for you. And that you know, and then it gets going back and forth and it gets competitive. And, you know, so I like that part of it too. But I think more than anything else, with as demanding as the job is, traveling and coaching and recruiting and all of this stuff, I don't know if you can do it well if you don't really take care of yourself, and I think that's been important for me.
All the way to the left side.
Yeah, for Billy and Scotty. Billy, can you talk about Casey's development as a player this year? And Scotty, can you talk about what you've tried to impart on him as far as what he needs to do to get to the next level?
Scotty, can you take that first?
Yeah, I just tried to give him pointers here and there if I see something that I've been through being here for 4 years, and mostly on defense, because from the high school level to the college level, the defense changes a lot, and there's a lot more schemes, and it's more complex what you need to do as a defender, on the ball and as a help defender. So I just try to give him pointers, help him here and there, but he does a great job of wanting to learn and accepting coaching from coach and just pointers from me. And so it's been a joy to play with him.
Coach.
I think the biggest thing for me with Casey has been he's always been a great kid and a good worker, but I think like a lot of guys, he came in and probably a lot of people in his head or people close to him about what he needed to do to take the next step to get to the next level. And a lot of that was, you need to shoot threes, and he spent a lot of time working on his shot. And I really felt like coming out of his sophomore year, end of his sophomore year, he started to figure it out. What was bad for him last year was the concussions and some injuries that really held him back from having the kind of year I think he could have had like he was having this year. But he's playing to his identity, which is the biggest thing. He's playing to his strengths. And there's so many other things that he does besides shoot the basketball that impacts and helps our team. And when he does those things, he's playing more to his identity.
Final questions on the left side of the aisle.
This is Gary Shelton with the Tampa Bay Times. Billy, this is a two-parter for you on Patrick. Now that you've had him for a lot of games, what do you think his place in Florida basketball history has been? And he's put off the NBA so much. How do you think his skill level will translate to the NBA once he gets there?
Well, I think along with Patrick, I think, these guys up here, especially these four seniors, they've won more games than anybody in the history of our program. They've won 3 out of 4 SEC championships. They've made deep runs to the tournament. I mean, I think these guys will go down as, as good of a collection of guys as we've had. As it relates to Patrick, I don't think there's any question that he has a professional career playing it. I believe it will be in the NBA. He's gotten so much better. He's worked extremely hard to get where he's at right now. I'm proud of how consistent he's been this year. And I think earlier in his career, that was probably the one thing that was lacking was a level of consistency. He's gotten so much more consistent. And I think he's been great for Chris Walker. Chris is very fortunate to have a guy around him like Patrick because he's very, very much an unselfish guy and a team guy. The other part I would say, for Patrick is I give him a lot of credit for making decisions regarding his career in terms of what he wanted to do. I see a lot of people, a lot of kids make really some poor decisions because they're influenced by other people and the wrong people. And I give credit to Patrick that he self-evaluated, really looked at his values, what was important to him, and every year he's had an opportunity to leave and he's elected to come back. And certainly we're happy he's come back every year. I love coaching him. If he wanted to leave, I would have supported him. But the one thing I admire is Patrick did what he thought was best for himself, and I think that that's always a good thing.
We'd like to thank Florida head coach Billy Donovan, as well as Scotty and Casey, Patrick, Will, and Michael for joining us here in the interview room. The Florida locker room